Well, let's start off with following up one of the major points that Nigel talked about.
And what life is like in Juba and South Sudan. And further on in our conversation, she turned to my father, who was sitting beside me, and she said to him, you have a very wonderful wife, to my father. And I think he was taken aback by it a little bit shocked, and I personally thought that she was joking a little bit. But then I spoke to her further, and I learned that she was serious, and that was the cultural norm. And child marriage, actually, in South Sudan was so ingrained in the fabric of the communities there that the girls themselves started to believe that it was a norm for them. So that just shows us how much more we have to work to change that mentality and really eliminate child marriage at all costs. Yeah.
That's quite a story. Your father is traveling with you here to Norway. Mr. Godefa, are you here? Can we meet you?
Yeah.
You just stand up to say, so you can say hello to him afterwards, perhaps? Thank you. So we had some images here of you on a trip to Ethiopia. And tell us what's happening. This, you're with, looks like a classroom at least, of girls in Ethiopia. This was, I assume, when you're working as an ambassador for UNICEF,
yeah,
correct?
This is in,
so tell us what's going on here.
Yeah, this is in South Sudan.
Oh, this is South Sudan, okay.
But this opportunity came when I was in Juba. It was the same day that I had actually had this conversation about child marriage, which was very interesting because I then had an opportunity to go speak to some girls themselves and listen to their stories, and in the midst of all of this, how they plan to reverse this for their community and for themselves. And it was so inspiring to listen to them talk about their dreams and their hopes for the future. And they are girls just like me. And the only difference is that we have different opportunities and different settings. And in the midst of everything that they're going through right now and the adversity that they're facing, they still remain very strong and very hopeful. And they are so passionate, and they have so much to offer to the world that I know that they are going to be leaders of their community. They were telling me they wanted to study further in their schooling and go to secondary school and become pilots and lawyers and teachers and doctors, all aspirations that can be achieved if they have basic education and a right to education. And that's something I like to emphasize as well, is that through education, most of the issues that we see that girls are facing can be eliminated. They're very simple issues that they're facing. It just needs to be implemented, and they need to have access to education. That's a must.
Did you get a sense when you met these girls in South Sudan that they were aware that perhaps early, young marriage is an impediment to just getting an education and moving on and living up to a different potential? Did you get a sense that they understood that already? Or is this a new message that people like you are bringing?
I think we definitely have to bring to light the issue of child marriage. I think on our side, we all know the that it can be detrimental to a girl's future. But I think it's also important in partnering with the communities in places like South Sudan and working not only with the girls themselves, but with the parents and helping them understand that this part of a culture or this mentality is actually harming their girls. So going in and discussing with the girls themselves and asking them, what do you want to do in the future? What do you want to be? What are your goals? What are your dreams? And explaining how practices like child marriage are detrimental to your growth as a girl and then eventually as a woman really will help reverse the mentality that's already there. It's a process. It's going to take some time, but it's for the future of our world in general. It's very important that we work to reverse that.
So in meeting girls in Ethiopia and South Sudan, tell us a story maybe about one or two of these girls that can bring this to life for us, about perhaps an obstacle that they have, a girl has been working to overcome, or a success story, or something, a real life story, one of that you heard while you were there.
So when I was traveling to a place called Adigudum, which is in northern rural Ethiopia, I had an opportunity to sit down with another family whose mother was present with them, and she had 4 children, and 3 were girls, and 1 child was a boy. So I saw the girls working out in the field and helping the mother with the home. And I went up to her and just, talked to her about the situation and about some of the children in the area, because they had actually come to a place where I was distributing school supplies for some of the children in the region. And in discussing with her, I learned that she had only been sending 1 out of the 4 children in her home to school and educating 1 child and providing that 1 child with the school supplies and with the uniforms and all of the things that the child needed. And I learned that it was the boy out of the 4 children that she had. The 3 girls she had chosen to leave at home and work, and the boy was being sent to school. So I sat down with her and I asked her, why have you chosen out of your girls? I mean, from my viewpoint, I would assume that the girls would be better suited to be in school, and the boy who can help with the manual labor at home would be more useful. And she explained to me that it was an economic issue, and she couldn't afford to send her daughters to school. And so I spoke to her about this issue, and I explained that yes, it is an economic issue, but it's an economic issue to not send the girl to school. Because later on, a few years down the road, you'll start to see that your return on investing in your girl child to go to school will be a lot greater, because she will be equipped with the skills and the knowledge that she needs to really make a better future for herself and her family and her community. So in speaking with that mother, she started to understand why it would be more beneficial for her to send her girl children to school. So I definitely believe that those types of encounters and experiences, speaking with parents and members of the community, will start to reverse that cultural mentality that our girls have to stay at home and not have access to basic education.
So, Nigel emphasized, of course, that education is key here. What have you learned about the education situation otherwise for girls in places like Ethiopia? Here in Canada and the United States and Europe, we look at education as, of course, critical to our individual development and becoming citizens of our nations and the world. But we're learning now that education has a much more powerful role in girls in countries such as Ethiopia, South Sudan, Bangladesh, all over the world. What did you learn about that big picture concept being perhaps embraced? You said that you were on a one-to-one level with a woman, so important because she will speak to others, she will change her family perhaps. But did you have a sense that that some people are starting to understand that this is a way to really develop the entire economy of a nation with girls' education?
Yes, I do believe that. And I think that when we start to explain and talk about investing in girls from an economic standpoint, from a business perspective, we start to see that the return on girls is a lot higher than most people would assume. And the fact that you are equipping young girls with the skills and the knowledge that they need to transition, which I like to emphasize because that transition is very, very important around this age. You're equipping them with the skills that they need to become powerful leaders and strong members of their community and their nation, which is even more important. And then they're able to help affect change because they will talk, as you said, to other members of their community and start to rise and become leaders in business, in politics, in all sectors. And that will really affect our world.
So something that we're going to touch upon today, I just want to introduce it here with Hanna. Of course, it's important if we're going to change a mindset in an entire culture, in particular places, we can't just have it be a conversation about girls. It has to be a conversation about the entire population. So what are your ideas about, just quickly, about how to approach boys as they're developing, as they're going through transition, becoming adults? How do you think they need to be approached to understand that girls have to be invested in as well?
Well, I think ultimately what's important to keep in mind is when we talk about girls' education, girls' rights, what we're looking for in the future is gender equality and gender equity, and making sure that girls have the same opportunities as boys and not to just focus on one or the other. So I think when we are able to raise strong male advocates and they're also able to support and empower women and children, that's when we'll start to see some major change happening. That has to happen at the community level, that has to happen at the national level and the international level. We have to start training and teaching our boys and our sons, nephews, everyone you can think of to empower young girls, and that's when we'll really start to see tangible change.
Very good. Thank you,
Thank
Hanna,
you so much.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.